Yeah.
So going back to what we were talking about, riding with James and all that. I'm guessing it's James, but you've ridden with Kenny, you rode with Chase, rode with James, and you're older now. Chad. I'm guessing James is the guy that you were like, just fuck my life, like I can never do that, or is it kind of the same for all those guys?
Chad was really good too, because I got to be riding with him, like, not long after he was winning, won championships and stuff.
Yeah.
But James for sure, just like stuff that, because especially back then, like, you got to remember back then we didn't have like iPhones and film everything, and you didn't see video of James. You would see somebody with some camcorder at this low, and you'd see a clip of him riding there, and you're like, and it would just blow your mind, stuff that he's doing, right?
Yeah.
Like back then. But imagine if we had iPhones back then and we could film stuff every day. You get little clips here and there of like some video that people did.
There's a test track video, KX135 days. He's trying to quad something or
quad it onto that table.
5 something, yeah.
Yep, that's what I mean. It's just stuff like that
that
I am like grateful now. You think back of it that I got to see so much stuff that I can't even remember off the top of my head, but just so much crazy stuff, and just you're like, are you like, you can't believe what he's doing.
I know,
that nobody ever got to see.
Yeah.
Even he won't even get to go back and see, because like we didn't video everything and it wasn't at your disposal right there in your hand.
We needed Gary Bailey, because he filmed everything, and he posts everything to YouTube now. But we needed him around at all times, everywhere.
No, I can imagine just James is probably just like, you know what, I think I could do that. And you're all like, no. And you're like, watch this.
And I'd never seen him really ever test jump anything to the side. Like, he just went.
Nope.
Like, I like, if I have the option to test things, like you saw like that day at Futures, like the quad out, like I jumped to the side before I went straight. Like, there's an option to do
James
that.
James is like, no.
No, he just goes.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Yeah, same.
I'll pass.
I'm there with you, Justin. And he was not wanting to jump off the side. I'm do or die.
Well, the sandbox that day, you jumped to the side, but still somehow landed on the landing, and that could have went. It was almost bad.
Yeah, really?
It went right into the side of the berm. It was, and he saved it perfecly.
Yeah.
I wanted to jump to the side, and I accidentally didn't make it to the side.
I have a photo of his case mark, and it is like, dude, you just go like a quarter of the foot left. You're on the landing. You're fine.
Yeah. Oh shit. Yeah. I didn't prep you for this one either, JT. But you rode a lot with Chad. And this just came to my mind because you mentioned Chad and Moss. You rode a lot with Chad. You rode a lot with Tortelli, and you rode a lot with Red Dog. Differences between them or similarities between them and their programs, like at the height of their speeds, their levels, because they've all, you rode with them at kind of when they were all at their peak a little bit at different times. So was there much differences between those guys?
Yeah, they were. They're very different people. Timmy was very like a military watch, right? Like, we did the same things every single day at the exact same time without fail. Like, we were doing those things come hell or high water. And I think a lot of my work ethic now, the way I've lived my life post-racing, was developed with him in those times. So we just didn't miss stuff, right? Where Chad did a lot of work, but you never knew when it was going to happen. It could happen at 10 a.m. or it could happen at 4 p.m. And we'd ride till dark, which sucked for me because sometimes I would get there at 9 ready to roll, and I would sit there all day, and he would show up at 3.
Oh, you wouldn't get a text?
It was like I had to just –
You wouldn't get a text?
No. Sometimes, but sometimes no, right? Like, but I was on Chad time, right? Like, I knew that I was very fortunate to be there, period. Right? Like, I wasn't paying him, so I was fortunate to be there. So whatever time he decided to be there and we were going to go to work, then that was part of the gig. Like, so be it.
I can't imagine what you would do, like just kicking dirt around Chad's place and go. I guess you were in the.
No, I just sit in the
lounge.
They had like an air conditioned lounge. I was watching TV.
Right.
Like, what else are you gonna do?
Yeah.
And then the difference for Tortelli, like Timmy was very much like we were riding a lot. Like, riding was the number one priority. We did a lot of off the bike training too, but not as much. Where Tortelli was a little bit less riding, but man, we did a lot of like cardio and off the bike work a lot. And then Chad was this weird hybrid. Like, Chad is so physically gifted. We always called him the closet trainer.
Yeah. Because
he would never tell us he was doing any training until I got super close with him. Then I would go with him all the time. But then he would just show up randomly, and we had been working out a lot, and he would just smoke us, running, cycling, take your pick, rower, just crush us. And we're like, what in God's name? How? Right? But he was doing all the work quietly and wouldn't tell anybody. So yeah, just different ways to do it, you know. And the other person I would throw in there is Ricky, because I've been around him so much recently, and I did spend a lot of time with him when I was younger. I used to tell Chad this all the time. I've never seen anybody in my life to this day still that rode as much as Ricky Carmichael rode, ever in my life. And he even said, like, it was too much. I had to back it way down as I got older. But there was years of that, right? So, you know, I don't know, 6-7 years of that, of just the most. I don't know who to even tell you to compare to, because I've never seen anything like it, the amount of riding that guy did. So if you're a young racer out there and you want to figure out how to be better, ride more.
Just ride.
Like, number one rule, ride more.
Remember when we went there and we did 330s? You didn't do them. Yep. Timmy didn't do them, but he did. 330s in August in Florida.
The one person I've seen do something like, well, actually kind of almost two, bag it at his place.
Okay, yeah.
And the one person I saw do one more moto than him was I saw Jeremy Martin in one day do 340s.
Okay, yeah.
And just literally he had to pull in for gas at like 32 minutes. Okay. And I was sitting there watching because I was doing outdoors, and he would just stop at the top. They'd fill him up. Yeah. 8 more minutes.
You know, Johnny O still says J-Mart's workload on a bicycle is phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. We were doing with Timmy, like at peak training, we were doing 330s in Supercross a day.
When I went there before Yamaha, that's what his program was one year. 04, maybe, 05?
Yep, 04. Yep, off season of 04.
I showed up, and I'm like, oh, my God.
We were fit.
Yeah.
I've done like 230s on a Supercross before, and it's gnarly. Yeah. It's so tough.
Yeah. Well, not even to
we
mention.
End up doing, between warm-up and everything, you end up doing like 110 laps maybe. It's a lot.
After 20 minutes, I start struggling to focus.
Yeah.
After doing that, and you do an extra 10 minutes, it's so tough.
The year, I don't remember JT being there, that one day stands out with Red Dog, and his lap times in the 330s were all within like a second and a half. Every single lap. Like, obviously it was his track.
Right.
He had it down. But
still got to be
2 seconds
fit.
Was the window.
Yeah.
If we could keep it within 2 seconds on the last lap, like we felt like we were on the level we needed to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It was nuts. It's interesting to see those guys and how they train, and it was in different time, different era, right? I mean, I remember Red Dog Cowie days. Timmy's like, dude, I don't ride much.
Yeah.
I'm old. I don't ride much anymore. You know, I don't do a lot of bike. So, you know, you got to rest.
I think guys work smarter now.
Yeah.
You know, like you look back to like what Johnny O'Mara and those guys, the legendary stories of they were just unbelievable amount of work, and probably too much, right? And even Ricky, the king of hard work, would even tell you like, I got better when I backed it down a little bit. Like I was still probably doing more than everybody else, but I needed to do a little bit less than I was doing.
Yep.